able please stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated.
The clerk will call the roll. Please correct the pronunciation of your name if it is incorrect.
Lauren Anderson. Present. William Barnes.
Present.
Timothy Barr.
Present.
Amanda Blanton.
Present.
Bella Brash.
Present.
Natalia Beyer. William Costello.
Present.
Emma Cumby.
Present.
Tate Few.
Present.
Amelia Gay.
Present.
Caleb Geddens.
Present.
Kaylee Goodrich.
Present.
Aiden Gruner.
Present.
Chandler Hines.
Present.
Zoe Hopkins.
Present.
Hannah Hoppy. Muhammad Iftikhar. Anita John. Lakika Cassetti. Camden Kay.
Present.
Tori Kerner. Mia LaPenta. Donnie Lapsley.
Present.
Jeffrey Lyons.
Present.
Jackson Matthews.
Present.
Isabel Miller. Tyler Morgan.
Present.
Mackenzie Mozo. Bryson Peterson.
Present.
Stone Pillsbury.
Present.
Ainsley Reed. Soraya Ramali. Rodrigo Rojas.
Present.
Taylor Silkert. Amaya Sowell. William Wenzel.
Present.
Lawson Windsor. Marion Winters.
Chairwoman Anderson. Let the record reflect that Chairwoman Anderson is the proxy for Speaker Pro Tem Board Beyer. With the quorum being present, is there a motion to approve the Journal of September 4th, 2024 as found online? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. We are now in line for general orders of the Senate, beginning with reports from Senate leadership. Is there anyone willing to speak on behalf of the Rules Committee? Chairwoman Anderson, you are recognized.
Awesome. Hi guys, so Natalia is sick, so I'll be doing the update. Rules met Sunday at 5:30. The new delegation chair people are for the College of Engineering and Computing, Senator Rojas, and for the College of HRSM, Senator Hope. With that, I yield my time to questions.
Chairwoman Anderson yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for a report from the Academics Committee. Chairwoman Anderson, you are recognized.
Okay, so the Academic Committee met on Monday at 7 p.m. We found the bill SBL 11609 unfavorable by a vote of 4-0. And then additionally, we worked to create action plans for each of our senators' individual initiatives and are in the works of getting meetings set up with various offices and organizations on campus to help gain thoughts and supports on their individual initiatives. And that's all, so I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairwoman? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Finance Committee. Chairman Wenzel, you are recognized.
Hello, everyone. Finance Committee met on Friday. We had 15 requests that we considered at $7,781.88, and we approved 5 at $4,986.59. We'll be discussing that later. We also got an interview for a new comptroller coming up. Jacob, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that. But with that, I yield my time to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairman? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Health and Safety Committee. Chairman Gruner, you are recognized to give a report.
Hey guys, Health and Safety met on Thursday at 4:30 p.m. I'd like to start off by giving a special thank you for President Pam Byers for coming to our meeting last week and explaining his current mental health initiatives. Our committee is continuing to work on our drink testing tabling event, which is something we're still in the works and might see some materialization coming into November. And we also have a piece of legislation coming out tonight being sponsored by Senators Miller, Goodrich, and Swole regarding campus security. And with that, I yield to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairman? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Inclusion and Equity Committee. Chairwoman Cassetti, you are recognized to give a report on the committee.
everyone. Happy Wednesday. Inclusion and Equity met yesterday at 5 p.m. and we met with Emma Orman and we discussed some initiatives that we are planning, which include a multicultural fair and also an initiative to encourage undergraduate students to participate in research. And with that, I yield to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairwoman? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Judiciary Committee. Chairman Kay, you are recognized.
Good afternoon. I get to play the role of Joseph Buchmeyer today and announce that I have nothing to report from the Judiciary Committee. I'll yield to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairman? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Powers and Responsibilities Committee. Vice Chairman Pillsbury, you are recognized.
Thank you. Powers did not meet this past week. That said, we will be meeting tomorrow for the interviews of two vacant Senate seat candidates. That said, if you are on Powers, please sign up for those interviews. We need 2 more senators for each of those slots to meet quorum. And with that, I yield my time to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairman? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Student Life Committee. Chairman Barnes, you are recognized.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. A little bit longer report from me, but Student Life met at 5 on Monday in the LSC. We had a super productive meeting and talked about our individual and committee-wide initiatives, such as Colonial Life watch parties for March Madness, themed athletic events and games, disability resources and on-campus housing spaces, and then Greek life initiatives regarding Russian recruitment. I also had the chance to meet with the director of the SDRC to discuss ways we can create a more inclusive environment for these students that are registered with their offices in terms of housing, recreational spaces like Strom, and then in the classroom. In the coming week, I'm also planning on meeting with faculty in the housing and athletics department, so I'll keep you all updated on that. The committee also voted on 3 pieces of legislation, and the results are as follows. SBL 11606 was found unfavorable by a vote of 6-2. SBL 11607 was found unanimously unfavorable, and SBL 11609 was also found unanimously unfavorable. During the second reading calendar contested period, I'll give the committee's opinions on each of these pieces of legislation specifically, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask now, and then with that, I yield my time to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairman? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for a report from the Sustainability Committee. Chairman LaPinta, you are recognized.
Hi, everyone. So we met this past Monday at 6 p.m. in the LSC. Senator Kerner is planning on meeting with Larry Cook at 3 p.m. on the 24th to talk about technology recycling, as well as Vice Chairwoman Gay has been doing some surveying in the J School, just kind of catching some ideas of interest about the program. We had 2 new ideas come through, which I'm super excited about. Actually, both of them sound fantastic. One of our new senators, Senator Lyons, had the idea to create just, a 5-minute, not even maybe, promo video after like soccer or basketball games to encourage people to recycle their water bottles, potentially even with the football games because of the new water bottle recycling initiative. Just something very simple and easy to remind people that they could recycle their water bottles. And then Senator Reed had the idea to potentially collab with RHA to reduce energy consumption in dorms. So with that, I yield the question.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Freshman Council. Are there representatives from the Freshman Council present? Seeing none. We are now in line for a report from the Constitutional Council. Chief Justice Buchmeyer, you are recognized.
Evening, everybody. It's nice to be back with y'all. Not much to update. Y'all were here last week. Now we've got a full court. good news for everyone. That, not much more to report, and I'll yield my time to questions.
The Chief Justice yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you all.
We will now hear a report from the Speaker of the Senate, Maura Hamilton. Speaker of the Senate, Maura Hamilton, you are recognized. Surprise, I'm giving my report this week. I hope all y'all had an amazing week and you all are very excited for College Game Day on Saturday. Just a few quick updates. First off, as I said in my pre-Senate email, just a reminder that y'all are expected to stay for the entire codified time of Senate. This is 2.5 hours past the gavel. If you guys have to leave early today and you hadn't submitted an excuse by 5:30 p.m. yesterday, that will be marked as an unexcused absence. Additionally, if you have to leave early, whether that's going to be excused or unexcused, the way to do that is you first motion to appoint a proxy, and then you're going to motion again for appoint a personal privilege, and I will approve that. So that's kind of the Robert's rules of the situation. This is also our first finance request with our brand new finance codes and our newly increased financial budget. So I figured that I would just take this time to reset our expectations when it comes to finance allocations. To clarify, the only thing that is in question when we are voting on a finance allocation is whether or not a registered student organization followed the finance codes and should be receiving funding. All registered student organizations are entitled to the campus activity fee budget that we manage here in Student Senate, and that money is derived directly from each student's tuition and given to us by the university. Senate allocating funds to a registered student organization is absolutely not an endorsement of an event in any capacity at all. And once again, that just means that they abided by our financial codes as outlined in Chapter 3, and they're also abiding by university policy, state, local, and federal law. Additionally, in order to hit the Senate floor today, that means that a majority of the members of our Senate Finance Committee had already voted and determined that the committee's requests had abided by our codes and were entitled to receive funding. Any vote done on allocation requests should be completely viewpoint neutral. If I can emphasize anything at all, it's completely viewpoint neutral, and it should only focus on Chapter 3 of the codes. This is stated very clearly in university policy, specifically staff 3.10 F2, and in our codes. And Section 3510C, if you guys want to take a look. I'll also read it to you guys. The direct quote is, student organizations shall neither be discriminated against nor given preferential treatment based on their viewpoint in compliance with university policy and federal, local, and state law. If you're wishing to vote in abstention on anything in general in the Senate floor, not just a finance allocation, please also be reminded that abstention is only used in a matter of direct personal conflict, such as a monetary value thing. So, for example, if you're a member of an organization that is requesting funds from Senate, you would want to abstain from that vote. So with that, I yield my time to questions. I know it can be a confusing thing, so I'm more than happy to answer. Now is definitely the time. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for a report from the student body treasurer. Treasurer Jacob Vaught, you are recognized.
Hey everyone, 21% of the external allocation budget has been requested, but only 3% has been approved at this point. Just wanted to give a reminder that the budget gets absorbed at the end of the year if it's not all spent. So if we don't spend it, it's not like we get to keep it for next year. Any details on any of the requests will all be on our finance page, which is on student governance page. And with that, I yield to questions.
The treasurer yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the treasurer? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for a report. We're now in line for a report from the student body vice president. Vice President Courtney Tax, you are recognized.
Hi everyone, I'm going to keep it short and sweet today. Thank you for everyone that came out and helped at Safety Week, where we ran out of all of our pizza, all of our root beer floats, gave out so many cup covers, so I'm really proud of you guys. And we built great connections with the Center of Health and Wellbeing. And I'm happy to announce that we will have a FROCO report next week because we have a freshman council. So you guys will get to meet 2 of them next week. With that, I yield my time to questions.
The student body vice president yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for a report from the student body president. Student body president Patton Byers, you are recognized.
Awesome. Well, I'm just going to talk to you very briefly about some of the things that are going on at the university. Today was the State of the University by President Amaritis. This is the second State of the University where he outlined what happened this past year and the positives of the past, but also how that will affect our future on our campus. One of the things we've talked about plenty is the master plan USC Next. He also outlined some of his ideas for that and the university's ideas for that. And, I would encourage you, if you did not listen to it, it was live streamed on Facebook, and I would definitely give it a listen. It's only about 40 minutes long, so not too long. And then the next thing I'll talk about is college game day that's coming to our campus, which is on Saturday. So just giving you guys some information on that. There is no one is allowed to tent out or camp out outside of the ground. So just an FYI, I've heard some people wanting to do that. Tell your friends. They unfortunately will not be allowed to. If we could, I would be there as well. So, but we can't. But I will be personally waking up at 4:45. Hopefully you will as well. And we're gonna hopefully show a positive representation of our student section. I know we've gotten a lot of complaints about that in the past, but I think we're gonna show them something a lot different on Saturday, and hopefully for good reason. So I just want to let y'all know about that. One also important thing that should be noted is an hour before game time at 11 o'clock, College Game Day will be moving into the stadium, and the cameras will be facing directly at the student section. So let's fill that up, make sure your friends are there, and also tell anyone else, and make sure you personally yourself is in the student section by 11 o'clock so we can show all of the national media that we are filling our student section and we're staying the whole game. Do you have any questions on that?
Student body president yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for special orders of the Senate. Are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other? The clerk will now read.
Application of Juan Krisner to be seated in the 116th Student Senate.
The nominee is referred to the Powers and Responsibilities Committee. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other? The clerk will now read.
A communication from the Senate Powers and Responsibilities Committee requesting a 1-week extension for the following vacant seat interviews: Daniel Huang, Kaylee Erler.
The question is of a 1-week extension for the vacancy interviews. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The extension is granted. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other? The clerk will now read.
A communication from the Office of the Speaker of the Student Senate concerning the nomination of Committee Chairman, Powers and Responsibilities, Stone Pillsbury.
The question is of the approval of the nomination of Stone Pillsbury as the chair of the Powers and Responsibilities Committee. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The nominee is approved. Congratulations to Chairman Pillsbury. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other? The clerk will now read.
A communication from the Office of the Student Body Treasurer concerning Comptroller nominations, Matthew McCarthy.
The nominee is referred to the Finance Committee. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any petitions, appointments, applications, or other? The clerk will now read.
A communication from the Office of the Speaker of the Student Senate concerning the resignation of Bill Zhang and Stephen Cardano Mendez from the position of Student Senator.
Received. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other? The clerk will now read.
A communication from the Speaker Pro Tempore regarding delegation chairperson nominees, Molinaroli College of Engineering and Computing, Rodrigo Rojas, College of Law, Tate Few, College of Hospitality, Retail, and Sport Management, Hannah Hoppy.
Received. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other? The clerk will now read. Seeing no more special orders of the Senate, we are now in the motion period. Are there any motions on the floor? I also got y'all on microphones so we can actually hear you. Could somebody from my staff please hand it to the body? Amazing. Chairwoman Anderson.
Motion to approve the new delegation chairpersons on block.
There's been a motion to approve the new delegation chairpersons en bloc. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The delegation chairpersons are now confirmed. Chairwoman Anderson.
Motion to remove Pro Tempore Buyer from the Student Life Committee.
There's been a motion to remove Speaker Pro Tempore Byers from the Student Life Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Silkert. There's been a motion to remove Senator Silkert from the Sustainability Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Blanton. There's been a motion to remove Senator Blanton from the Ad Hoc Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Silkert.
Motion to remove myself from the Student Life Committee.
There's been a motion to remove Senator Silkert from the Student Life Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Are there any other motions on the floor? Seeing no more motions, is there a motion to dispense of this motion period? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. We are now on the call of the introduction of new legislation. The clerk will read.
SB 11610, a recommendation to permit the Finance Committee to allocate funds.
Chairman Wenzel, you are recognized to speak on this legislation.
Hello, everyone. As mentioned earlier, this is a bill that we just blanked here. Anyways, we reviewed $7,781.88 this past Friday, and then we approved $4,986.59. And there's not much more to it, so I yield my time to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairman, Senator Brash? And just wait for the microphone so we can all hear you.
For those of us that's not on Finance Committee, can you just give us a little rundown on prices and like the cap? I know we talked about it a little bit 2 weeks ago about the cap on certain events, but like I myself don't know really anything about it.
Are you talking about for dialogues, or are you talking about just the cap in general?
The cap in general.
Okay, so there's 3 sections that you classify an event as. They can either be programs, tournaments, or conferences. Programs do not have a cap on them. Tournaments are $6,000 and conferences are $3,000. And then I guess I can go ahead and say dialogues are $1,000. Anything above that are required to have a dialogue.
All of this information is also in Chapter 3 of the codes, just so you know. Senator Brash?
Sorry, you're right here, so I'm going to ask anyways. So why is the events not capped, but conferences are capped at 3,000, but like events you can request more than 3,000?
Sure, that was a question that was answered with the rewriting in the previous codes. I believe the idea was that since programs are more accessible to a larger population, as like tournaments and conferences you have to go somewhere and travel to, while programs are right here on campus. The idea was that by opening the cap there, we could allow for better attendance to those events. But I didn't write that. That was more of a Jacob Vaught question, so I can, of course, lead you to him as well.
I'd also ask to keep questions within the scope of this specific piece of legislation as well. Are there any other questions on the floor? Vice Chairwoman Miller.
I have a motion for the separation of this bill.
All right. 1 second. Is there a motion for a brief recess? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Clarification as to how you're looking to divide the question.
Actually, you could go ahead and I motion to forget that motion.
It's been pulled. Are there any other questions on the floor at this time? All right. Seeing no more questions, are there any motions on the floor?
Motion to pass by acclamation.
There's been a motion to pass by unanimous consent. There's been an objection by the motion to pass by unanimous consent. Are there any other motions on the floor at this time? Chairwoman Anderson.
Motion to table SBL 11610
Could you clarify that motion?
indefinitely.
There's been a motion to table SBL 11610 indefinitely. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The legislation is now tabled indefinitely. Chairman Barnes.
Motion to retrieve SBL 11610 from the table and place it on the second reading calendar contested.
There's been a motion to retrieve SBL 11610 from the table and place it on the second reading contested calendar. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The legislation is now placed on the second reading contested calendar. Chairwoman LaPinta.
Motion to divide the question by dividing SBL 11610 into two bills. Bill A consisting of Uncensored America's allocation and Bill B consisting of all other organization allocations.
To clarify, the motion is to split the bill SBL 11610 into two individual pieces of legislation, hereafter referred to as SBL 11610A, which contains Uncensored America, and SBL 11610B, which contains the rest of the allocations. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The legislation is now split for consideration. To clarify once again, they are now called SBL 11610A and 11610B. Is there a motion for a brief recess to allow the clerk to remediate this in the public information folder? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Order. Is there a motion to call the roll to ensure that all senators are here and present? The clerk will now call the roll.
Lauren Anderson. William Barnes. Timothy Barr. Amanda Blanton. Bella Brash. William Costello. Natalia Beyer. Emma Cumby. Tate Few. Amelia Gay. Caleb Geddens. Kaylee Goodrich. Aiden Gruner. Chandler Hines. Zoe Hopkins. Hannah Hoppy. Muhammad Iftikhar. Anita John. Lakika Cassetti. Camden Kay. Tori Kerner. Mia Penta. Donnie Lapsley. Jeffrey Lyons. Jackson Matthews. Isabel Miller. Tyler Morgan. Mackenzie Mozo. Bryson Peterson. Stone Pillsbury. Ainsley Reed. Soraya Romali. Rodrigo Rojas. Taylor Silkert. Amaya Sowell. William Wenzel. Lawson Windsor. Marion Winters.
All right, and just one more time to clarify, now in the public information folder under introduced legislation, there should be two pieces of legislation titled 11610A and 11610B. We are now continuing on with the call of new legislation. The clerk will read.
SBL 11611, a recommendation to increase security measures on campus on September 18th, 2024.
Senators Goodrich, Miller, and Sowell, you are recognized to speak on this legislation.
Hey y'all. So as stated in this bill, we're looking to increase security measures on campus on September 18th, 2024. This is in relation to the event that is proposed to be held that night by Uncensored America. The event has been posted on Twitter, and there have been response comments to that insinuating that people are ready to have a riot, and we are opening the floor to outside guests for this event. So it is a concern with us bringing those outside guests and those guests having said that they are willing to incite violence.
I'm going to have to germane that statement.
Social media followers of Gavin McInnes, Milo, and Uncensored America have been noted to intend to fly in for the event. So there is no definition of a distinguished guest per USC policy. However, people flying in for an event could be considered a distinguished guest, in addition to a social media presence of over 250,000 followers. The University of South Carolina policy STAF 326, a policy for procedures for accommodating distinguished guests, recognizes that extraordinary security measures may be needed in these situations to protect faculty, staff, and students. The value of inviting a distinguished guest to the university may require the temporary interruption of normally scheduled activities. The university reserves the right to take appropriate action to provide a secure environment for all present on campus during such an appearance. The university also recognizes the rights and responsibilities of both students and non-students to participate in these special events. However, the university, while acknowledging the rights of assembly and free speech, reserves the right to control the environment by time, manner, and place restrictions in order to provide well-being of all people present on campus. This bill is simply supporting an enaction of that policy. It does not suppress their ability to hold the event and exercise their free speech. It simply aims to ensure that everyone on campus can remain safe. We see increased security measures currently at athletic events when distinguished guests such as the other team are present, and where we invite a large number of non-student viewers. This bill asks that we carry similar policies over to this event. We are requesting increased police presence, including Columbia PD, and medical detectors or security pat-downs upon entrance, all very similar to those seen at sporting events. I have personally been reached out to by multiple members of the USC community, multiple students, that they have concerns on their safety for this day. So that is what brought me to bring about this bill. The recommendation states that our recommendation that we wrote states that students have the ability to be excused from class in the event that they do not feel safe attending. USC policy STAF 3.26 notes the accommodation of said distinguished guests may require temporary interruption of regularly scheduled activities such as classes. As of current, the university as a whole has made no statement on an adjusted class schedule for the day in response to our guests, so our bill advises that. Many students have expressed their concern, and I think that instead of students having to choose between a repercussion in the classroom for not attending a class or feeling unsafe, this simply provides a middle ground so that they don't have to make a decision in their education or their safety. Speaker Gavin McInnes, who has been noted as one of the speakers for the event, was said to have founded the Proud Boys organization. The United States Department of Justice has proved this organization's involvement in the U.S. Capitol building breach on January 6, 2021. As a result, the DOJ has found multiple members of the Proud Boy organization guilty of felonies, including conspiracy against the U.S. government. While those members may not represent the entire organization, we must recognize the risk that is associated with these followers of the speaker. A previous Uncensored America event, which was held at Pennsylvania State University in 2022, looked quite similar to the event as far as the university's advisions to how we proceeded. There was a large amount of community and student disapproval. However, the university allowed the event to go on without ample security. Students had organized a peaceful protest for the event. However, they state that they were sprayed with tear gas and a fist fight broke out, resulting in overall student harm. In this situation, the Uncensored America event was canceled due to concern for even further harm. Increasing our security would help to keep things in control in the event that the event got to this point and to prevent any student harm as had happened at Penn State. I believe truly our goal as senators is to keep our students safe, and I see no downside in taking precautions to simply ensure everyone is safe this day. Whether you're for the event, against the event, don't care at all. It's simply, I don't see an issue in us having extra security just to make sure everyone all around is safe. No one ever said that they wish they had had less security. We urge an email to be sent out alerting students to the university planned security measures as stated in that USC policy, STAF 3.26. Advance notice of schedule or operational changes will be published and distributed whenever possible, well in advance of the special event. Either of y'all have anything? And with that, I yield my time to questions.
The senators yield their time to questions. Are there any questions? Chairman Kay, can someone get him a microphone, please?
I move to adopt by unanimous consent.
There's been a motion to adopt by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, the legislation is officially adopted. All right, continuing on with the call of legislation, the clerk will now read. Seeing none, that completes the call of new legislation. We are now on the call of the uncontested calendar. The clerk will read. Seeing none, that completes the call of uncontested legislation. We are now on the call of contested legislation. The clerk will read.
SBL 116-6, introduced by Senator Morgan, a recommendation to have the state anthem of South Carolina played at every university-sanctioned athletic event where the national anthem is also played.
Senator Morgan, you are recognized to speak on this legislation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Folks, I am here today to speak in support of my legislation, SBL 11606, which, as the clerk just said, advocates and recommends to the university that the state anthem be played alongside the national anthem at every university-sanctioned athletic event where, like I said, the national anthem is played. I mentioned last week I got this idea from the University of Maryland. They did that for a very long time, except their state anthem had connections to an unsavory part of American history. Our lyrics and our state anthem do not. And I believe, and I hate to put words in her mouth if I am, I believe the chairwoman of academics asked me if I knew of any other states that have done this. Last week I had answered no. Upon 1 week's lapsing, I've done research. The states of Tennessee, Kentucky, and Illinois have this tradition where they play their state anthems at their athletic events. A lot of them, the articles that I found, they talk about before their football events. But like I said, this recommendation would go above and beyond that and recommend that it be played at every university-sanctioned athletic event. With that being said, I will yield the questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the senator? Vice Chairwoman Mozo.
I've reached out to the athletics department. I haven't heard back. 1 week is, a tough turnaround time. It's a bureaucracy. But I have made the contact.
Are there any other questions on the floor? Seeing none, thank you, Senator Morgan. We are now in a period of debate on this bill. Does any senator wish to speak on this bill? Chairman Barnes.
All right, so this bill, SBL 11606, was found unfavorable by a vote of 6-2. The two senators in favor thought it could be a good addition to some athletics events. However, the remaining 6 who found it unfavorable felt that not enough research has been done on the topic. Faculty at that time had not been consulted. Therefore, the feasibility of the recommendation was unclear. I'll yield my time to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairman? Seeing none, thank you. Is there a motion to the previous question of the passage of this legislation? Oh, Senator Morgan, you are recognized. My apologies.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Folks, I just want to reiterate, the administration has been contacted, and I have done my research on other states doing something similar to this that do not have controversial lyrics in their state anthems. So with that being said, I would just like to clear that up. I have done my homework. I yield the questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Blanton.
I said prior, I've reached out. A week is a tough turnaround time. It's a bureaucracy. I will tell you what I have done. I have spoken to the student body president on this matter, and I mentioned this to the speaker as well. And if my memory serves me correctly, it was positive reception for both of them.
Vice Chairwoman Mozo.
Yes, but only on the fact that they have not gotten back to me.
Chairman Barnes.
That I have not, mostly in part because my personal network does not really have any university athletes in its nebulous.
Senator Brash. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Are there any other senators wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, is there a motion to the previous question of the passage of this legislation? All in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We are now in a vote on the legislation. We're now in the vote on the bill. The question is of the final passage of SBL 11606. This shall be a roll call vote. The clerk shall call the roll.
Lauren Anderson. William Barnes. Timothy Barr. Amanda Blanton.
Point of information, you say aye or nay.
Bella Brash. Natalia Beyer.
Proxy vote.
William Costello. Emma Cumby. Tate Few. Amelia Gay. Caleb Geddens. Kaylee Goodrich. Aiden Gruner. Chandler Hines. Zoe Hopkins. Hannah Hoppy. Muhammad Iftikhar. Anita John. Lakika Cassetti. Camden Kay. Tori Kerner. Mia LaPenta. Donnie Lapsley. Jeffrey Lyons. Jackson Matthews. Isabel Miller. Tyler Morgan. Mackenzie Mozo. Bryson Peterson. Stone Pillsbury. Ainsley Reed. Soraya Ramali. Rodrigo Rojas. Taylor Sokert. Amaya Sowell. William Wenzel. Lawson Windsor. Marion Winters.
Is there a motion for a brief recess to tabulate the votes? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. By a vote of 31 ayes to 6 nays and 0 abstentions, SBL 11606 has now been adopted. Congratulations, Senator Morgan. Continuing on with the call of contested legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 116-7, introduced by Senator Morgan, a recommendation that the University of South Carolina not hold classes on the day before Election Day in school years where federal elections occur.
Senator Morgan, you are recognized to speak on the legislation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Folks, this recommendation does what it says on the can, essentially. Basically recommends that the university not hold classes the day before Election Day, which is always on Tuesdays, specifically when federal elections occur. It's a USC tradition that we always get Election Day off. Upon looking at the calendar of Clemson University, they always have it so that their fall break is the day before Election Day and Election Day off when elections happen. This bill is not recommending that. It is recommending that an additional day be added the day before Election Day, and that the day that is being added prior to Election Day is made up by starting the school year one day additionally earlier in years where federal elections occur. Furthermore, I'd like to remind everybody, this recommendation is not, this recommendation states that we recommend that they start implementing this change effective in the 2030 through 2031 school year. For clarification, that academic year is the next academic year that has not been planned out yet. So we're saying at the bare latest, we don't want to inconvenience the calendars that have already been set in stone. So at the bare minimum, we would want to add this to the next calendar that has not been formed. It also recommends earlier, if possible, if we pass this, and if the administration looks at it and says this is not possible, that would be well within the lines of reasoning of this recommendation to have it placed in the academic year where there's not been a scheduled yet, that being 2030 through 2031. I will yield the questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Goodrich.
I have not.
Are there any other questions for the senator? Seeing none, thank you, Senator Morgan. We are now in a period of debate on this bill. Does any senator wish to speak on the matter? Chairman Barnes.
Right, so similar to SBL 11606, 07, we felt that the senator had not done enough research yet. That means that no faculty had been reached out to, whether that was here at USC or at Clemson, to see how this would enact here. And then we also, therefore, found that the feasibility of the recommendation was unclear. The committee suggests that in future recommendations, maybe increasing resources and opportunities to inform students regarding mail-in ballots and absentee voting could be a little more beneficial. With that, I yield my time to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are continuing on with the period of debate. Does any senator wish to speak on the matter? Senator Moore. Does any other senator wish to speak on the matter? Senator Morgan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the chairman just mentioned, and I think I clarified this last week, I am very much in favor of student government leading initiatives for voter education. They already have done so. They continue to do so. This recommendation is about giving the choice to the students that we have here and giving them more of a cushion to arrange the time to go home and vote if they so desire. Especially seeing that around 50% of our students are from this state. If they want to go home, they should have the option to. If they want to check the box in their home precinct, home county, home district, they should have that option, and they should not be under the gun to make it back to class in enough time. And so, again, and it would also apply to, people like myself who live far enough away who, if they want to make that drive, they can. Being from North Carolina, I can attest, living in a swing state is important. North Carolina and Georgia, two swing states that border our state to the north and south respectively. So again, I'd like to clear this up. I commend student government, and I hope they continue to advance their causes of voter education. But again, this recommendation is all about giving students the choice to do so if they so desire. I yield the questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the senator? Vice Chairwoman Mozo.
No, absolutely. I'm sorry, were you done with the question? I didn't mean to cut you off. No, absolutely not. Again, like I've said, if you want to have the right to do that, by all means, please go ahead and do that. But if you, as an individual, want to plan the time to go home and vote on Election Day, let alone, forgetting mail-in, forgetting early voting, and, traveling home to go do early voting if you'd like, if you want to go and vote on Election Day, it's about making sure that you can budget your time comfortably. Again, this is not demonizing in no way, or at least it was written without the intent to demonize mail-in ballots, to answer your question.
Chairman Barnes.
Similar to some of the things that I asked you previously, with starting the school year a day earlier, have you looked at how that could impact some of the events going on campus, such as sorority recruitment or anything like that, where they need that extra day to kind of figure out and finish everything before the school year starts?
I have not. I would think that if the university were to do that, all the organizations would have to follow suit accordingly. As far as, them moving and revolving their schedule around the university schedule like it is currently, they would have to, act accordingly if the university were to implement that change.
Are there any other questions for the senator? Seeing none, thank you, Senator Morgan. Are there any other senators wishing to speak on this matter? Thank you. Any other senators wishing to speak on this matter? Senator Morgan? All right, there's been a motion to the previous question. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We are now moving to the previous question. The question is of the final passage of the bill SBL 11607. This shall be a roll call vote. I would ask that everyone respond either yay or nay for the clerk. The clerk will now call the roll.
Lauren Anderson. William Barnes. Timothy Barr. Amanda Blanton. Bella Brash. Natalia Beyer. William Costello. Emma Cumby. Tate Few. Amelia Gay. Caleb Geddens. Kaylee Goodrich. Aiden Gruner. Chandler Hines.
Wait, can we stop for a second? When you're saying aye, does that mean yay or abstain?
Once again, please say yay if you are in favor of the bill. Was there some confusion about this? We're all on the same page. Who was the last person we just called?
I was about to call. I just called Chandler Hines, I think.
Chandler Hines, can you please confirm your vote? Yay. All right. The clerk will restart the roll.
Lauren Anderson. William Barnes. Timothy Barr. Amanda Blanton. Bella Brash. Natalia Beyer. William Costello. Emma Cumby. Tate Few. Amelia Gay. Caleb Geddens. Kaylee Goodrich. Aiden Gruner. Chandler Hines. Zoe Hopkins. Muhammad Iftikhar. Anita John. Lakika Cassetti. Camden Kay. Tori Kerner. Mia LaPenta. Donnie Lapsley. Jeffrey Lyons. Jackson Matthews. Isabel Miller. Tyler Morgan. Mackenzie Mozo. Bryson Peterson.
Is that yay or nay? Yay.
Stone Pillsbury. Ainsley Reed. Soraya Ramali. Rodrigo Rojas. Taylor Silkert. Amaya Sal. William Wenzel. Lawson Windsor. Marion Winters.
Is there a motion for a brief recess to tabulate the votes? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. What's wrong with I or no?
Well, I couldn't abstain. That's the only reason I was thinking
No,
that.
people would say abstain.
Okay, so I just didn't. I was having that. I just got really confused and put abstain, and
No,
then I just
you're
lost
okay.
the count. But I means yay. I just was like, does that mean that they're just saying present, like I'm here and abstaining?
No.
And I was like, and then I switched to
you're
counting
okay.
them, and I
You're
panicked.
okay.
But 24 to 37.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I,
Yeah, I got
nay,
that. Yeah.
proxy, or I didn't abstain.
So they know to say abstain.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have been in Senate roles where they've said I abstain.
No.
That's the only reason. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to mess up.
No, that's okay. You have a question? No, you're okay.
What did they say? I mean, I'm like, I don't want to mess up the vote.
Okay. I, good, nay.
Yeah, so these are the yays, that's the nays.
Okay. Here, let me give this to you. To clarify before we begin, I, yay. That means you're in favor. Nay, you're against it. If you're going to abstain, you're literally going to say the word abstain. But the Senate will now come to order. Chairwoman LaPinta. Point of inquiry? I'm working on getting us an electronic system. this could probably be discussed after Senate. Yeah. Senator Gettins.
Okay, thank you. I just wasn't aware, but that helps, and I'll keep track of it now. And I promise I got it right. Like, if you said I counted as yay. I just wanted to double check because I know this is important to everyone. So it was just a clarification question, but thank you so much.
All right. By a vote of 13 ayes to 24 nays and 0 abstentions, SBL 11607 has failed. Continuing on with the call, the clerk will now read.
SBL 116-8, introduced by Senator Morgan, a recommendation to the administration at the University of South Carolina to purchase the campus of the former Lutheran Theological Southern Seminary.
Senator Morgan, you are recognized to speak on this legislation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Folks, this bill's contents have not changed since last week. All this is seeking to do, first and foremost, the impetus behind this bill was to acknowledge that we as a university are packed for space, which we are. I don't think anybody's going to deny that. Unfortunately, free open space conducive to placing classes is hard to come by in this city without construction. Fortunately for us, it came known to me that the campus of the Lutheran Theological Southern Seminary, which is run by Lenore Ryan University, is relocating in January of 2025 to Hickory, which is where that university is. I did, over the course of the last week, have the ability, like I mentioned last week, I attend a Lutheran church, and somebody put me in contact with a member of the faculty of the seminary, and she informed me that USC was indeed one of the parties that was looking at making a purchase or incorporating the campus of the seminary into the university property. So I have done legwork as far as reaching out to the people that work at the seminary, not so much on this end, on our end, but I will say that person was the dean of one of their departments. I don't think that she would be lying to my face about that, as far as saying that USC was considering taking up that property or is one of the potential buyers. I will yield the questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Vice Chairwoman Miller.
Certainly. Like I mentioned last week, I think the humanities broadly, more specifically the religious studies department, that would be an appropriate relocation of classes out there. They do have parking spaces in and around that neighborhood and on the campus. They actually, for a campus its size, they have actually a lot of parking, believe it or not. But also, what I would envision as well is that they have dormitories there, like a substantial amount of dormitories for the seminarians. And, we talk about, there being a housing crisis. And so what I would envision is that in addition to classes being moved out there, I also think it could be a possibility to explore looking at having upperclassmen. I wouldn't specifically want freshmen that far out from campus for their freshman experience, but I think it would be appropriate to have upperclassmen housing should they so choose to elect to do so, and have that be an option for them. I know that in the past, what we've done for upperclassmen housing, for those who want to stay on campus, they keep them in the dorms that used to be run for freshmen. And I think that not necessarily taking the dormitories at the seminary and using that as an exclusive switch, but also having, on-campus dormitories for upperclassmen as well as those dormitories, I think that would be a very appropriate utilization of that space. I mean, look, buildings are built to be, lived in, worked in, and I think that it would be a shame to let this opportunity pass us by. I hope that answers your question. I will yield to a follow-up if it doesn't.
Senator Hopkins.
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Mozo.
That's a very good question. I think that it would be appropriate to take a look at expanding the Comet routes. It's a very good bus system as it is. I think it would be interesting to look at the municipal transportation routes as well. It's not too far away, but you are right in the sense that it's not practically on campus either. But I'd also like to point out that typically speaking, not always, but typically speaking, from my experience at USC, if you're an upperclassman, chances are you do have a car on campus. And so that's why I would be making that distinction to have that be upperclassmen dorms exclusively. But again, that's getting bogged down in the specifics related to the dorms as well. But if we were to utilize their classrooms or utilize their auditorium or utilize their library, I think it would be worth looking at, as I mentioned earlier, to expand the USC Comet routes, as well as, the City of Columbia's Comet routes as well.
Vice Chairwoman Mozo, do you have a follow-up question? I would wait for the period of debate. Are there any other questions for the Senator? Chairman Barnes.
That I don't know. Again, I don't know that. No. And I'll be honest with you on that.
Senator Hopkins.
It does not, but it does have a decent amount, it has a few parking lots. It doesn't have a garage in this typical sense of Senate Street garage or Bull Street garage, but it does have, I'd say for a campus its size, it's expansive parking in blacktop parking lots.
Are there any other questions for the Senator? Seeing none, thank you. We will now move into a period of debate on this. Are there any other senators wishing to speak on the matter? Chairwoman Anderson.
Okay, so the academic committee decision was kind of based on the following key factors. One, there's not a clear understanding of the exact purpose that urging the university to buy this property would serve and for what group of students it would serve. Two, there's still not enough adequate research regarding the purchase or any communication with the university that they would be interested in this, its attainability, or if this initiative is even feasible, or any discussions about the distance to campus and how that would be combated. And then just overall, the feasibility of the initiative was kind of unclear and would need a little bit more research to back it up. And with that, I yield my time to questions.
The Chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions for the Chairwoman? Seeing none, thank you. Are there any other senators wishing to speak on the matter? Senator Brash.
So I don't know any specifics, obviously, on the Lutheran Church, but what I do know is, as a freshman, I lived in Park Place, and I'm a psychology major, so a good portion of my classes were in Gambrell, and I took the bus every day, and it was very helpful, but I also know that we have a housing crisis on campus, and it wouldn't necessarily be up to us to decide what the university chooses to do with the buildings, what subjects they choose to have in the buildings, but I think that it would be something to consider, and for us to say, hey, here's something that we know is on the market, here's something that we know that USC is looking into, we suggest that you also look into it. But I wouldn't say that it's really up to us to decide what students are there, how we use the dormitories. That would be up to the university, but I definitely think that we would benefit from the space.
The Senator yields her time to questions. Are there any questions for the Senator? Chairman Barnes.
So normally I would agree with you, but due to it being real estate and how fast real estate moves and how fast people buy things up, I know my parents just sold their house. This is unrelated, but my parents just sold their house and it went super quick. So I also don't know much about real estate, but what I do know is it moves a little bit quicker than normal. So under under other circumstances, I would say yes, we should definitely discuss more with faculty. But under the circumstances that we are a big university and that is a big commercial real estate spot, I would suggest that we would pass it and then move on to talk to it. And that would honestly, I believe, would push faculty a little bit more because they'll say, here is the Student Senate backing this. Now how do you feel? Instead of something that's like, oh, well, the Student Senate could back this. The Student Senate did back this. Now how do you feel? I yield my time to questions.
Are there any other questions for the senator? Seeing none, thank you. Are there any other senators wishing to speak on this matter? Is there a motion to move to the previous question of the passage of this bill? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We are now moving to the previous question. We will now move to a vote on the final passage of SBL 11607. This shall be a roll call vote. The clerk will call the roll.
Lauren Anderson. William Barnes. Timothy Barr. Amanda Blanton. Bella Brash. Natalia Beyer. William Costello. Emma Cumby. Tate Few. Amelia Gay. Caleb Geddens. Kaylee Goodrich. Aiden Gruner. Chandler Hines. Zoe Hopkins. Muhammad Iftikhar. Anita John. Lakika Cassetti. Camden Kay. Tori Kerner. Mia LaPenta. Donnie Lapsley. Jeffrey Lyons. Jackson Matthews. Isabel Miller. Tyler Morgan. Mackenzie Mozo. Bryson Peterson. Stone Pillsbury. Ainsley Reed. Soraya Romali. Rodrigo Rojas. Taylor Silkert. Amaya Sowell. William Wenzel. Lawson Windsor. Marion Winters.
Is there a motion for a brief recess to tabulate the votes? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. By a vote of 12 ayes to 25 nays and 0 abstentions, SBL 11608 has now failed. Continuing on with the call of uncontested legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 116-9, introduced by Senator Morgan, a recommendation to urge the administration of the University of South Carolina to reconsider the decision of sanctions placed on Theta Delta Chi fraternity.
Senator Morgan, you are recognized to speak on the legislation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Folks, the content of this bill hasn't changed from last week. This is just a recommendation that the university reconsider, not weigh one way or another, on the sanctions placed on Theta Delta Chi fraternity. For a refresher, sanctions came down in the fall of 2022. They were accused of, they didn't even know what they were accused of. And the university said, here's your sanctions, you're banned for 4 years, you're off campus. So that means that this fraternity cannot recruit on campus, they cannot table, they cannot post flyers for their events. And apparently they've informed me that apparently there is a list of potential rush candidates that is published by the university or the Office of Greek Life. They can't access that, so they're basically shut out of recruiting people in the mainstream student body. But nevertheless, I'd like to rehash what they have done in the meantime since they have been exiled from campus. Again, they met with delegates from the Joseph F. Rice School of Law Restorative Justice Initiative. And if you know anything about that, that's really about taking a look at things that have occurred in the past, and it's about, instead of having a antagonizing view, it's about saying, what happened? Okay, we cleared that up. How do you move past that? How do you look to the future beyond what happened? How do you become better? And they did that. They volunteered their time with no guarantee that they would have these sanctions reconsidered. And I respect them for that. Furthermore, when you look at all the philanthropic work and the good work that they have done since they've been kicked off of campus, I think it truly shows that they have had a change, and not even a change in heart, but rather it shows the good work that they're able to do when they don't have the resources of a fraternity that is allowed on campus. And their president made that very clear to me. He said, the people who were in this fraternity at the time of the sanctions being handed down, they have moved on. They are not a member of it anymore, or they have graduated, one of the two. And so with that being said, all the people currently in the executive board have sought to, like I said, have a change in tone. They've revamped their fraternal structure. And also the president informed me, he said, we have been able to accomplish notable philanthropic thresholds, but we feel that if we were to be allowed on campus, that we would be able to have even more positive of an impact. I want to be very clear here. They informed me that if they were to have these sanctions reconsidered, and the university still ruled that they have to serve those sanctions to term, they will serve it. It's not about whether they want to be let back on campus at the drop of a hat or not, and I am not advocating for that in this bill. I want to be very clear here. It is about a recommendation that, given what they have done, that their sanctions be re-adjudicated in a just manner. That's all it is, folks. And again, if they weren't serious about this, they would have not given to me a plan that they have that spans over the course of 2 years. They would not have done that. They would have not have published this and promulgated this amongst the brothers in the fraternity. If they weren't serious, they wouldn't have done that. And the people that came to me, I've known them before they were in this fraternity. These people wouldn't lie to me. So with that being said, I hope you all can think the same way as I can when it comes to this bill, and I look forward to you all voting aye on this bill and joining me in doing so. I yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the senator? Senator Goodrich.
No.
Senator, I would ask that you allow senators to finish their question.
My apologies, but no, I have not.
Please raise your placard to be brief. Senator Goodrich.
Well, to be fair, I believe it was a point of information was raised last week. Something was published in the state that covered it, but the state said, we don't know what happened. It was the Daily Gamecock that did that. So the state cited the Daily Gamecock, but they didn't cite any specifics as well. So with that being said, the frat doesn't know, and the public doesn't know either. As if you're taking that article at face value written by the state as your, if you wanted to be an informed member of the public and read up on this, the article by a reputable newspaper, mind you, I would call the state reputable, they can't really tell you either.
Chairman Barnes.
Point of information, Beta Delta Chi was placed on probation following or prior to their suspension, and according to the Daily Gamecock, they were suspended for a sexually explicit scavenger hunt and making their pledges carried around in public.
Are there any other questions? Senator Miller.
I believe this question was asked last week, and I'll reiterate again. In your question, the hypothetical would be if they came to us with a plan, say, "Oh, we have a plan. We're gonna do it." This plan has already been followed to term. So with that being said, the difference in that is that they have followed through with what they said they were going to do. In that question, the hypothetical is an empty promise.
Vice Chairwoman Mozo.
No. Because I've met with their president, I have met with their executive board. I'm not understanding the question. Yes, and I will tell you that the executive board that is in power now, they were members when these sanctions came down. Everybody that was in the leadership, the bad actors that, theoretically caused this to happen, have moved on. I want to be very clear. It's a new slate of people that are in charge now, and they are genuinely vested and genuinely interested in turning the page and moving on.
I'd like to remind all senators, just please raise your placard so I can recognize you to ask your question. Senator Few.
That I do not know, but what I will tell you is that they have substantially increased training with the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life with their executive boards and their general members as well, as far as taking the hazing things more seriously. They've met with, like I said, they've met with members from the the representatives from the law school with the Restorative Justice Initiative. They have, again, they've outlined new trainings for anti-hazing and things of the sort. And they've also invested more in ensuring that all members of the fraternity have a say in the fraternity's operations as well. It's less of a hierarchical organization now.
Chairwoman LaPinta.
Chairwoman, I'm not asking that I'm not recommending that the current sanctions be I'm not recommending that it be ruled one way or another. And if you wouldn't mind repeating your question, I think I'm talking over the point, so if you could ask it again for clarity. No. I'm sorry. I've cut you off. Go ahead. I see what you're saying. The recommendation here is that you know, we want it to be re-adjudicated. We don't want it to be. We're not telling the administration or Office of Sorority Life or whoever the executive branch is to rule one way or another. And again, if in this recommendation, if it passes and the university feels that it is right, if it comes to pass that the re-examination of the charges set forth did indeed happen, then they would have to serve it through. I mean, I'm not saying, yeah. You see it? Yeah. Wonderful.
Chairwoman Anderson.
Point of information, just as a clarification, the Tucker Hicks Transparency Act states that universities have to publish all of this information. It's on their website, and there is a list of what they were charged with. It says they were charged with violent conduct, hazing, failure to comply to request, and fraudulent behavior misrepresenting the truth, and they were all responsible for all of these charges. So
Vice Chairman Matthews.
Because he informed me, he's in my grade, so he was, these sanctions were handed down in the fall of 22. He was still a candidate at the time. He really didn't know what was going on when this occurred. And so with that being said, now that he, I'll tell you this, if you've ever rushed a frat or are familiar with people who have, when you're in the rush process, you really don't know the inner workings of a fraternity or the drama or, the operations and so on and so forth. And so with that being said, still having a clean enough slate, being a potential candidate, he was left in the dark, as was everybody else in their class, and he was not a fully vetted member of the fraternity at the time.
Chairwoman LaPinta. Because it's on the second reading contested calendar, it's already inherently in a period of debate, and the senator's still speaking in the matter. Yeah. Second reading contested calendar. Yeah. That's outlined in our rules of procedure. Are there any other questions for the senator? Senator Iftikhar.
I think that, like I said, the president at the time was he was a fall semester freshman when this happened, right? And so I think that it is perfectly valid, since he was not an exec at the time, to not fully be in the know of this. And, I think that they're telling the truth. The answer to that is that, look, that would be a better question for him, but what has...
Senator, I'd ask that you wait to be recognized and you'd give the senator a chance to answer. Thank you.
Would the senator mind repeating the question? No, and I think that to insinuate that that is a concern would cast a blanket statement over each and every member, that each and every member was a perpetrator of whatever occurred. If you see what I'm saying, I think that, not everybody in that fraternity is a bad actor. I want to make that very clear, and the president in this case is not. And something I've discovered talking to them is that they are very loyal to this organization, and the people that wanted to stay on, it was solely out of that, because they believed that in the face of what occurred, they still saw the good in the organization as a whole. And again, I think to insinuate that, yeah, I'd be very careful in insinuating blanket statements.
Senator Gettins. Could you clarify that motion? There's been a motion to the previous question and to end the period of debate. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. We are now moving to a vote. We will now vote on the final passage of SBL 11609. The clerk will call the roll. My apologies.
Lauren Anderson. William Barnes. Timothy Barr. Amanda Blanton. Bella Brash. Natalia Beyer. William Costello. Emma Cumby. Tate Few. Amelia Gay. Caleb Gettins. Kaylee Goodrich. Aiden Gruner. Chandler Hines. Zoe Hopkins. Muhammad Iftikhar. Anita John. Lakika Cassetti. Camden Kay. Tori Kerner. Mia LaPenta. Donnie Lapsley. Jeffrey Lyons. Jackson Matthews. Isabel Miller. Tyler Morgan. Mackenzie Mozo. Bryson Peterson. Stone Pillsbury. Ainsley Reed. Soraya Ramali. Rodrigo Rojas. Taylor Silkert. Amaya Sowell. William Wenzel. Lawson Windsor. Marion Winters. By a vote of 1 aye to 36 nays and 0 abstentions, SBL 11609 has failed. Is there a motion for a 5-minute recess to allow senators to use the bathroom, get a drink of water, etc.? Is there a second? All right, without objections, we are now in recess for 5 minutes. We shall reconvene at 7:11.
All senators sit down, please. Give us a second. Is there a motion to call the roll to affirm that all senators are voting and present? The clerk will now call the roll. Please say present when your name is called.
Lauren Anderson. William Barnes. Timothy Barr. Amanda Blanton. Bella Brash. Natalia Beyer. William Costello. Emma Cumby. Tate Few. Amelia Gay. Caleb Geddens. Kaylee Goodrich. Aiden Gruner. Chandler Hines. Zoe Hopkins. Muhammad Iftikhar. Anita John. Lakika Cassetti. Camden Kay. Tori Kerner. Mila Pinta. Donnie Lapsley. Jeffrey Lyons. Jackson Matthews. Isabel Miller. Tyler Morgan. Mackenzie Mozo. Bryson Peterson. Stone Pillsbury. Ainsley Reed. Soraya Molly. Rodrigo Rojas. Taylor Silkert. Amaya Sowell. William Wenzel. Lawson Windsor. Marion Winters.
All right. Chairman Kay. To clarify, there's been a motion to adopt 11610B by unanimous consent. That is the original finance allocation bill, excluding the financial allocation request from Uncensored America. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. The legislation has now passed. Continuing on with the call of the contested calendar, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11610B.
SBL 11610B just passed by acclamation.
SBL 116-110A.
Chairman Wenzel, you're recognized to speak.
Hello, everyone. This recommendation is to permit the Finance Committee to allocate funds to the Uncensored America comedy event totaling $3,576.99. We had a dialogue with them this past Friday, confirmed that they had no violation to our codes. So with that, I yield my time to questions.
Point of information, just to remind the Senate once again, the only thing called to question with this legislation is whether or not this organization has followed the finance codes. You must stay viewpoint neutral. Chairman Barnes.
Sure. So I have the request in front of me right here. So it was a total, like I said, total $3,576.99. To break it down, the we would be allocating for speaker fee of $1,500, some decorations and camera rentals for $803 and $647, and then flyers for advertising for $126.99. And then also USC PD and security for $500 as well.
Are there any other questions for the chairman? Senator Few.
I didn't personally ask to see the flyer, so I'm not sure.
Are there any other questions for the senator? Seeing none, thank you. We are now moving to a period of debate on the bill. Is there any senators wishing to speak on the matter? Chairman Kay.
You know it's serious because I brought notes. Before we begin, I want to give a huge thank you to all of the clerks here. I know. They've done a wonderful job. We've done a lot of procedural things, and they've had to do the brunt of that work. So just, can we give a little bit of a round of applause? It is one, this is hang up, I'm sorry. It is one of their third time at Senate, so probably not the most, we're going to work on that.
Can we get another piece of tape? Thank you.
I'll take this off for now. Thank you. Before I begin with my little tirade, it is purely from, at least as I say it, a legalistic viewpoint. I'd like to remind to all the senators who want to come up and speak on this, as mentioned previously, we are meant to remain viewpoint neutral, and that there are cameras rolling. So everything you say up here will remain for time immemorial, scary or not. Can we get a round of applause for our So as mentioned previously, the university has an obligation to fund student organizations through student government. The event that they are being funded through Uncensored America has broken no rules nor violated any law. So as for a purely legalistic viewpoint, we have very few reasons or almost no reasons to fund them. Yes, we may or may not agree with what they have to say, but ultimately that is not what we're here to do. What we're here to do is uphold our rules. And the First Amendment supersedes any kind of political viewpoint that we have, with some very few exceptions. And I can disagree with someone and then still defend their right to be able to say something. As part of that, this has grown further in scope than I ever would have imagined. The state legislature is aware of it, as well as the White House made a statement about it. So again, when we are talking up here, please be very, very careful about what you're saying and don't let your emotions make your decisions for you. That being said, I think, at least for me, my very personal opinion is I don't like the idea of having the Senate have to choose. The university adopted the Chicago principles for a reason, and it's to allow any individual to come and speak, and then have the university not endorse or condone, but allow all to speak. I believe as a body, we have very similar principles and very similar rule sets built in. We have a little more discretion, but I think ultimately, if someone has a legitimate reason that they should not receive funding, please come up and say so. But I think if your only reason is that you may dislike what they have to say, it's not a valid reason to deny them funding. And with that, I'll yield to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairman? Seeing none, thank you. Are there any other senators wishing to speak on the matter? Vice Chairwoman Miller.
All right, I'd like to speak to the point that Chairman Kay made about them not breaking any South Carolina or USC policy laws. If I'm sure a lot of us have seen the graphic that they have put out, and that has a lot of sexual notation to it, some words that I'm not sure if I can say while we're up here, as long as visuals, and they could not be advertised on campus due to their lack of compliance with the University of South Carolina policy University 6, Freedom of Expression and Access to Campus Policy, which states publications must be in compliance with South Carolina state law. South Carolina Criminal Law Section 16-15-305 denotes patently offensive, meaning obviously and clearly disagreeable, objectionable, repugnant, displeasing, distasteful, or obnoxious to contemporary standards of decency and propriety within the community. Sexual conduct is declined to include excretory functions, which we have seen on the promotional material.
Point of information, the promotional that was submitted to the Finance Committee did not contain any explicit statements within it. Point of inquiry?
Point of inquiry, with the organization promoting that on their Instagram, which has a minimum age of 13, and therefore allowing it to be publicized to minors, which violates South Carolina Criminal Law Section 16-15-345. Would that not put them as an organization that's in violation of the university's terms?
I'm just speaking on what the Finance Committee has received, nothing else.
As I just mentioned, there is a South Carolina law that prevents the distribution of materials with such such parts such as the excretory functions and certain words that were advertised on said flyer onto minors, and the minimum age for an Instagram account is 13. The organization's Instagram is a public organization, a public page, so they have no way of knowing whether or not it was going to minors the age of 13 to 17. So I do believe that should affect our ideas on the funding of that organization, since they are violating some South Carolina laws and USC laws. So with that, I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Chairman Barnes.
I do not have a law degree, but from what I believe so.
Are there any other questions for the senator? Chairman Kaye.
Yeah, so it's a combination of South Carolina Criminal Law Section 16, 15, 305, which is where they explicitly denote what is considered patently offensive and also define that excretory functions are included. And then Criminal Law Section 16, 15, 345 is the one that speaks about minors, and Instagram does also put in their terms and conditions that 13 is the minimum age.
Are there any other questions for the senator? Seeing none, thank you. Once again, just a point of information, any promotional materials received by the Finance Committee or used on campus does not contain any sexually explicit language or imagery. Are there any other senators wishing to speak on this matter? Chairman LaPinta.
For those that do not already know me, my name is Mia LaPinta, and I represent the College of Arts and Sciences as a senator at the University of South Carolina. Let me be completely crystal clear. My sole purpose of speaking on this legislation is to make the body more aware of what the ramifications of funding an event such as this one would be. The Supreme Court of the United States decided in 2010 in the landmark case of Citizens United versus FEC that money going toward political campaigns is speech, and free, protected speech at that. If you support any candidate through monetary means, you are taking a stance or utilizing your free speech that is protected in our country. Due to this definitive decision, if student government provides funding for this event, we are inherently taking a political stance. As representatives of the student body, we have a duty to ensure that our constituents' voices are being heard and protected, not to further our own political agendas. Being apolitical is essential to the functionality of student government, and according to Citizens United, money equals support. I urge all of you to consider the precedent we would be setting if allowing the Senate as a whole to allow funding for and subsequently support an event that sole purpose is to take a political stance one way or the other. And let me be clear, by Citizens United, not giving money to an organization or campaign does not mean you do not support their beliefs. Not giving money to something is a natural state. Disagreeing or taking the opposite stance on this would be taking money away from them, which would not be what would happen. It means that you, or in this case, the student body, simply are not taking a stance whatsoever on this organization's beliefs or their event. I will yield the questions.
Point of information, this is not defined as a political campaign, and once again, per our finance codes and university policy, we are not to discriminate against any organization based on viewpoint, which includes political affiliation or stance. Are there any questions?
Can I clarify? I wasn't saying that this was a campaign. I was saying that this was a politically centered event, and by giving money to this politically centered event, we would inherently be taking a stance on said political event.
Chairman Kaye.
I am not.
Chairman Kaye.
I think that because this event is going to be almost guaranteed a method to promote hate and not to.
I'm going to have to germane that statement. It has to maintain a viewpoint neutral and statement of fact.
I think that we should be a lot more careful about what we consider to fund. In this case, I think we could adjust in the future, potentially starting now.
Chairman Kay.
That it could end up being the case, yes.
Once again, just another clarification, we cannot discriminate or give preferential treatment to an organization based on viewpoint. Chairman Barnes.
I do. I think there could be a clear and present danger with this event.
I'm going to have to germane that statement. It needs to remain viewpoint neutral and statement of fact. Chairman Kay.
That's exactly what I was trying to say, is that I do not think we should give money to this event nor the organization, because I think that we as a body need to remain viewpoint neutral.
Senator Windsor.
So you are saying that we should not support any political organization for funding?
Potentially.
Senator Windsor.
Yes.
Just a reminder, we cannot discriminate or give preferential treatment based on viewpoint. Chairman Barnes.
I think it could depend on it could be contextual. It could depend on the situation, yes.
Chairman Kay.
Yes.
Chairman Kay.
No, I'm saying that in this context, if we were to give money to this organization, it could be seen as a stance that is not inclusive.
Chairman Kay.
No, because if we're not giving money to an event, it's not necessarily not supporting them. It's just that we're not, like, if I don't give you $5 right now, that doesn't mean I don't support you. Maybe.
Can one of my staff members give the body a microphone? Thank you. Are there any other questions on the floor? Vice Chairwoman Miller, let me just grab you a microphone.
I apologize. Could Chairman Kay repeat his last statement? We were having a lot of trouble hearing it over here.
I think the last general statement I made was, do you want any event or any political event to not be funded? Was generally where I was going.
I think weren't you referencing her legislation?
I did,
I think
but that was a previous point. I don't know how far back you want me to go.
I think she wanted to know what the question was about her legislation. Wasn't it?
Mine was just, did you think Senator Miller's legislation was adequate to deal with the concerns that you possessed?
Yes.
Okay, so your opposition to this bill is then purely because it is political, or has the potential to have a political viewpoint, which violates our bylaws.
Yes, and funding that would violate the violate the bylaws.
No, I'm saying opposing it because it's political violates the bylaws.
I'm just saying that we shouldn't fund this event. I'm not saying that I support nor do not support this event, or that we should support / not support the event. By not funding it, we just do not give them money.
I understand, but I did make the point that by not funding it, you could potentially be sending a message that you are biased.
We're just not giving them money. It's just, that's all. It's not that we don't support them or we don't think that they can get funding from elsewhere. It's literally just we, as a student body, are not giving them funds.
But we've handed entities with similar political natures, I believe even in this funding session, with political ideologies that may or may not differ from our own. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'd remind senators to wait to be recognized. Chairman Barnes.
Do you think with what Senator Miller said about their possible breach of South Carolina law, do you think that gives us a reason to not fund their event?
Absolutely. If they're breaking the law, you shouldn't be able to fund an event.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Gettins.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Section 2-1-40 of the 2024-2025 Student Government Codes of Conduct, Section B, Number 2, I motion to move to executive session for the receipt of legal counsel.
This motion does not fall underneath the bounds of executive session as outlined in our codes or within South Carolina state law.
For the receipt of legal counsel, legal advice.
We are not receiving legal advice at this time.
Okay.
Are there any other questions for the senator? Chairman Barnes? There's been a motion to call the previous question. Once again, I would like to remind all senators, this is not based off of viewpoint. The question is of whether or not this organization has followed the finance codes, university policy, and state, federal, and local law. There's been a motion to call the previous question. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We are now moving to a vote on SBL 11610A. The question is of the passage of SBL 11610A. The clerk will call the roll.
Lauren Anderson. William Barnes. Timothy Barr. Amanda Blanton. Bella Brash. Natalia Beyer. William Costello. Emma Cumby. Tate Few. Amelia Gay. Caleb Gettins. Kaylee Goodrich. Aiden Gruner. Chandler Hines. Zoe Hopkins. Muhammad Iftikhar. Anita John. Lakika Cassetti. Camden Kay. Tori Kerner. Mila Penta. Donnie Lapsley. Jeffrey Lyons. Jackson Matthews. Isabel Miller. Tyler Morgan. Mackenzie Mozo. Bryson Peterson. Stone Pillsbury. Ainsley Reed. Soraya Romali. Rodrigo Rojas. Taylor Silkert. Amaya Sowell. William Wenzel. Lawson Windsor. Marion Winters.
Is there a motion for a brief recess to tabulate the votes? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. By a vote of 10 yeas to 27 nays and 0 abstentions, SBL 11610A has failed. Continuing on with the call of contested legislation, the clerk will now read. Seeing none, Senator Brash, you have a motion? There's been a motion to appoint Senator Brash's proxy as Chairman Gruner. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Perfect. Senator Brash. Granted. Senator Silkert. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Peterson as Senator Silkert's proxy. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The proxy is granted. Senator Silkert. Granted. Senator Gay. There's been a motion to appoint Chairwoman LaPinta as Senator Gay's proxy. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The proxy is granted. Senator Gay. Granted. Are there any other motions on the floor? Continuing on with the contested calendar, the clerk will read. Hearing none, we are now in line for a period of open discussion. Does any senator wish to bring a matter of attention to the body? Senator Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today for the last time as a member of the Student Senate of the University of South Carolina and as a member of student government, as I will be tendering my resignation effective immediately at the end of this session. I'm sure to the joy of some in here and the despair of others. Now, with that in mind, I have some things to say, so I'm going to be up here for a minute. You know, I am the most senior senator in here. I'm the dean. I'm like Farmers Insurance. I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two. I've seen division at its worst, and I've seen unbound resilience by members of this body. Half-cocked motives, but very meaningful bills being passed by the same token. Those who truly sought to make a difference, and those who sought to drive them out. I've seen a lot. But yet, Madam Speaker, as I close out my time here in the Senate, I fully recognize that I stand here today on the shoulders of giants. J.D. Jacobus, Anna Kelly, Matt Harris, Christian Phillips, Andrew Phillips, Trey Thacker, Maeve Smith, Brandon Badinsky, Samuel Bryant, Chandler Calder, Ian Hurd, John Haladin. All these men and women, legends of the Senate, who have come before me, those individuals are the true difference makers. And it is they who I have sought so hard to embody as a senator and cultivate a record of service accordingly. And to be frank, that's what I've done, and I'm proud of it. Madam Speaker, I long wrestled with when I should resign, but it's been a long time coming. And I often struggled with thinking, if I resign now, what will I leave undone? The answer is that there was never a perfect time for me to leave, and there always would have been legislative matters that I wanted to pursue. However, there does come a point in time where you must take a long, hard look at yourself, look at what you've done, and ask yourself if you're proud of that record. I ask myself that question, and the answer is a resounding yes. And to be honest, folks, when you look at my record, and all the efforts and initiatives that I've sponsored or co-sponsored and have passed, what's there not to be proud of? Who pushed and advocated for the library to be open 24 hours in the lead up to exam week? It was me. Very rarely does the university administration act quickly on things that Student Gov promulgates, and yet they moved rapidly on making that a reality, a bill that had my name on it. Furthermore, I signed onto legislation with then Senator Hamilton in conjunction with the RHA to push administration officials to act more rapidly in developing a better internet connection throughout campus. Anyone worth their salt can see that we need that. Only a blind man can't. When it comes to honoring and standing up for our history as a university, we have much to be proud of, and our traditions. And my legislative record also shows that. You could look at the example of me passing 2 pieces of legislation recommending the university to put busts of prominent figures back into the reading room of the library You could also look at the fact that I passed a recommendation to bring back the Forever to Thee banner at athletic events, which they have done. Perhaps, though, the biggest issue that faces our university now is a ever-increasing student population with too little facilities. I know it, folks. You all know it. Everybody knows it. Sometimes I feel like I'm Ross Perot in the election of 1992 when he talked about the national debt. Same principle applies with over-admission. It's like the crazy grandma in the basement. You know it's there. You just don't want to do anything about it. And I wouldn't get so passionate about that issue, Madam Speaker, if I didn't care about this university. But the reality of it is that even if I am the only one, I will continue to push for a more even distribution of admission at this university so that we do not continue to have the logistical issues that continue to plague us. Folks, the fact of the matter right now is that with our current admission status, we're mocked, we're laughed at by our contemporaries at Clemson. They call us USC, the University of Second Choice. And I was online the other day and I read somebody posting their profile of their test scores and things along the sort, asking as to whether they would get into USC. And somebody said, relax, as long as you can read a coherent sentence, you'll get in. Think about that. You guys are all smart. You guys can do more than that. I can do more than that. And that should honestly raise an eyebrow as to how we're perceived. As leaders, as student leaders, we must ask ourselves, what type of USC do we want to see? I, for one, am for making this university accessible and having many people come here. It's just a fact of the matter. We don't have the facilities for it right now. That's what I was trying to do earlier this evening, but I totally understand the intentions of pushing that off to another time. But regardless of this, we still have much to be proud of when you look at everything we have going for ourselves. One of the best part-time MBA programs in the country, done right by my constituency, the Dollamore School of Business. Furthermore, we are a top 60 business school. But you also look at our other programs. Aside from business, we own nursing. We own political science. We own the humanities. We are Gamecocks, for God's sakes. Not Clemson, and not Coastal, and I'm sorry, Senator Few, not Coastal, not USC Aiken, not Winthrop.
I'd ask you to refrain from speaking disparagingly of other universities.
My apologies, Madam Speaker. Regardless, we are an exceptional university and an exceptional people, and we need not forget that. Furthermore, going back to the records, if you want to look at Greek affairs, prior to the bills passed tonight, or prior to the bills presented tonight, nobody has done more for the Greek life community in recent memory than Senator Morgan has, and that's just the long and short of it. As a matter of fact, when I passed that bill to revamp the presidential cabinet, every council can now have a direct say in who they have lobbying on behalf of their council to the president. And of course, I'm sure there are a few more feats that escape my mind at the moment. But all in all, Madam Speaker, record aside, I consider myself a blessed man. I live in one of the most safe, if not the safest country in the world. I'm free to practice my religion as I see fit. I have the chance to receive a higher education. I've been entrusted by my peers of the second largest college at the University of South Carolina to serve them not once, but twice, with honor, integrity, and fairness, which is what I have done. I have the most supportive family. I am loved by the most beautiful woman in the world. And that, Madam Speaker, I would not trade for as much as the U.S. is in debt. Yes, Madam Speaker. I do consider myself to be a truly blessed man. This chapter has been a good experience for me, but I am personally ready to move on. And that's the sign of a true leader, one who is introspective enough to hang up the mantle and pass it on. Overall, there have been several people I've butted heads with on account of their provocation, not mine, but I can confidently say that I have developed several lasting and valuable friendships, people who mean a bunch to me, and I genuinely mean that from my time here. And as I close this chapter in my time at USC, I will rest well knowing that I did what I came here to do. But I raise this question to you all as senators. When will the legislation that we write be written solely with the intent of helping students and the students only, as opposed to putting the needs of our peers on the back burner for the sake of how we are perceived? I know I can answer that question because everything I have done as a senator has been for the students of this school and for my college. That is something I can take to the bank. But as I wrap up here, I want to leave the Senate on this note, and I hope that those of you who have tuned out will tune back in now. The word legislate comes from the Latin verb infinitive legare, which means to build. Keep this in your hearts as those who are elected to serve their peers. Seek legislative opportunities that will build a brighter tomorrow for Gamecocks yet to be, as opposed to passing frivolous and menial bills. The Senate should always seek to create legislation that creates a deep impact right here on campus, instead of stoking the flames of divisions with the winds that blow with that. You have minds. Think through them. You have lips. Speak with integrity through them. You have hearts. Listen. Listen. Listen compassionately with them. My hearty congratulations to Senators Barr, Peterson, Wenzel, and Miller, who upon my resignation will become the new co-deans of the Student Senate, these individuals now being the most senior members. May their expertise and wisdom from their time accrued in this chamber guide the minds of the Senate to do stupendous things. May the grace of Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Ghost be with you all evermore. I leave you all with a quote from the late and great Jerry Springer, as he always said when he would end his shows. Jerry would always say, take care of yourself and each other. Madam Speaker, for the last time as a member of the Student Senate, and for the last time as a member of student government at the University of South Carolina, I will not yield to questions. I will yield to the will. I tender my resignation to the desk. Morgan out.
I would have prepared something if I had known this was happening, so my apologies, Senator Morgan. No worries, you're good. Congratulations on a long tenure as a senator and many years of service to our university. Continuing on with our period of open discussion, does anybody else have a matter of attention they wish to bring to the body? Chairman Kay?
No, I'm not. I have neither funny nor as interesting of a speech as that, but I did want to both congratulate the Senate for making their decisions, regardless of whether I agree or disagree with them. This is a civil body, and I absolutely love to be a part of it, and I love to see it happen. So I just want to make sure people know, particularly like newer senators, there's no bad blood. There's no at least I hope there isn't. Maybe she hates me after this. But this is part of the job, is the debate and the discussion, and having it happen is really, really fun for me. Maybe not. But I just want to really reiterate that as a body, I'm really privileged to be inside of it, and there's no hard feelings at all. And I was really glad to have this happen, actually, which will make a lot of people go, what? But I like this stuff. I like the debate. Anyways, I'll yield to questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions for the chairman? Seeing none. Thank you. Does any senator have a matter they wish to bring to the attention of the body within the open discussion period? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for your period of announcements. Are there any announcements from the floor? Seeing none, as always, I have an announcement. I'm sorry, I'll keep it quick. Here we are. This session ended. I'm very proud of all y'all. You did an amazing job with Robert's Rules stuff, with staying civil, keeping decorum the whole time. As Chairman Kay said, I just want to remind everybody as well, my job as speaker is to remain impartial in all Senate issues, no matter what, and just be a keeper of the code. So I promise y'all, same thing. I would never have any feelings towards anybody about anything that's passed or denied within Senate, just making that very clear. Otherwise, this is really fast. I was supposed to give these out last week, but I got super distracted. I have 2 Senate Excellence Awards promise I'll go really, really fast. First one is going to a vice chairwoman who sometimes I forget is a vice chairwoman that she does so much. She is always sending emails in my office, sending me texts. I'll forget about things, and I cannot forget about things that she is working on because she always, always, always follows up on me. And the reason that I wanted to give her the Senate Excellence Award is she was part of a partnership that made an absolutely amazing website regarding roofie initiatives on campus. Now she knows who she is. But I was having like a awful day, and then when I found out about that completely made my day. And I love to see senators that have passion. So my first Senate Excellence Award is going to Vice Chairwoman Emma Cumby. It's over there. And my second one, I think that she's just a very underrated person in Senate, but her presence, I promise, I constantly notice it. She is always an upstanding member of Senate. She shows up to her committee meetings. She's showing up to the ad hoc meetings. She also is always sending me emails, reaching out to me, really following through on her initiatives. And I just think that she's somebody who needs a little bit more recognition. And she also was the other half of the Roofie Initiative website. So my second Senate Excellence Award is going to Senator Zoe Hopkins. And once again, I just wanted to say I would have had something prepared if I had known Senator Morgan, but congratulations on a very long time of service. I'm very impressed by all the work that you have done throughout the years. But with that, if anybody has any questions about what happened during Senate tonight, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to clarify. I don't want anybody to be confused or walk around with anything that might be incorrect. With no further announcements, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Without objection, the Senate will now stand adjourned until Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. Hi.